Hi, this is Brandon Sled here from thirstgym.com. Today we're talking about exercise called the Sled Resisted Sprint. All right, so today we're going to talk about the Sled Resisted Sprint. This is a great exercise to build sprint speed and overload that sprint. You are going to want a sled for this, and ideally some kind of strap that you can put around your waist. You can also buy one that goes around the upper body. That's definitely more preferred in my opinion, but they can be a little pricey for what they are. If you happen to have some regular straps laying around they use for other exercises, I would go that route first, but you are going to want the sled. The key behind this is, again, to overload the sprint, actually slow it down, build some quality strong hamstrings. The main thing I want to emphasize here is that you don't overload this too much. It should not be slow, lethargic. Feel like your athlete is running through mud. You really want to make sure that they're just being slowed down a little bit, but they're having to actually put a lot of force into the ground, and it's going to help develop some really strong hamstrings. I found that using this with most of my athletes as we begin to prepare for season and do a lot of sled resisted based sprinting going into the season and even maintaining some of that into the season, we just drop our loads a little bit, that we've had no hamstring, groin, or hip flexor issues since we've been implementing weighted sprinting into our programs. So what you're going to do, just like it sounds, I've got my sled here. I'm just going to put this on me. I like to use the 3D strap from What's That Strap. It's actually pretty convenient. It's padded in the front. It's got this little adjustable thing that you can use to actually close off some space. And then, just like the exercise says, I'm just going to start here a little bit back. I'm going to start in a staggered stance position. You could obviously start this in different positions. You could go 3-point, what have you. But what I'm going to do is make sure I'm leaning forward. And as I'm in that position, I've actually got the slack pulled out of my sled. And then I'm good to sprint and take off. And I'll turn back around here. Again, lined up in a good position, good quality lean forward, arms relaxed. Or if you want to actually have them in an actual sprint position, this 3-point stance, that's totally fine. And then you're just going to take off through. So with this exercise, you definitely want to make sure that your sled is on the lighter end. This sled, for me, is honestly too heavy. I've got a lighter one that I use with my younger athletes. That's what I prefer to use. This is usually more for my big boys because this sled just does weigh 80 pounds entirely by itself, so it does slow people down just a little bit. But with the sled resisted sprints, usually shorter distances work better. 10 to 15 yards, kind of that ideal sweet spot. Really work on the acceleration mechanics. We do also go full 20 yards worth in here as well to develop a little bit longer drawn out sprints because it is the whole way of our turf with that extra 5 yards to slow them down and the distance that we might have with the sled behind them. So that's usually the max distance that we have. You could certainly do these for upwards of 50 to 100 yards if you really wanted to. I think by that point you should be training max velo, not max acceleration. So this is definitely more of an acceleration based drill. Something that I really try to keep in mind myself when I program these is I never want my athletes running over 100 yards in a given session with sprints like this, so keep that in mind. Generally, I try to keep them more in that 50 to 70 yard range when I'm thinking about the total amount of distance that I actually want them to run in a given session. That's usually a nice sweet spot as I'm usually using this to phase them in towards season. I already know they're doing a lot of running. If you really wanted to build this up over the off season, by all means, you can get probably to 150 total yards, doing 10 to 15 yard sprints with about 10 sets. Just make sure you're providing adequate amount of rest because it should be a max effort based activity or drill. And if you really wanted to up the ante here, after you do a couple of weighted sprints, you could do a couple 10 to 15 yard acceleration based work of focusing on staying forward after doing this, almost like a post-activation potentiation aspect of it as well. And we do this a lot to peak our athletes in track and field as we begin to approach that time of year for some of them. So make sure you're using sleds as a part of your sprint training. I think it's a very easy, low-hanging fruit activity that's going to immediately make your athletes faster, build some super strong hamstrings, and it's honestly something you can do year-round as long as you're smart about how you're programming it and implementing it within your program. If you're an athlete using this, make sure you get to a place where you can use sled-resisted sprints. It's going to be one of the best ways to improve your sprint speed. If you got any questions, let me know in the comment section below. Thanks. Have a great day.